she had a little bit more leeway, and she was more responsive to things in life than my boys were. And so I was talking to them, and I would tell them the things that I thought was good for them, and then my boys would tell me all about the things that they knew were good for themselves. And they were a little sassy because they have their mother is sassy. But what are some of the challenges that you went through, Janet? Because I know for me, it took me a long time to understand that men and women really do think differently. And usually, when a man has said something, it's because he's already thought it through in his mind, and he's seeing for himself how what the end result is for him. He doesn't necessarily care about all the gray areas. It's black and white a lot of times with my boys. Do you find the same thing? I know you're married and your husband, but do you find the same thing happens in your family as well?
Now, that's a great question. Woo. Now, how do not get echo?
You have to mute one of the devices and turn it all the way down.
Can you hear me though on the
I can
live?
hear you. I can hear you on the live.
Okay. So for me, the challenges I had with communication. Now, no parent is perfect by all means, and I just wanted to. When I created my family, I was a single parent, and it lasted for 2 years before I finally released all the traumas, the luggage, the baggage, the shackles, got rid of all those to be able to love myself fully and receive love. And with my daughter, I started her out early, communicating with her because that was my little girl. And it was me and her all the time till, before her dad came into the picture. And so we had already established that communication between us, teaching her everything, homeschooling, just teaching her everything that I wanted, how to tie your shoes, how to brush your teeth, things like that the children need to learn. But I always asked her, how you doing, how you feeling, less talking and more listening, asking questions. I think it's important for children to ask them questions, because then they're like, oh, you want to, you're not just telling me what to do. You're actually asking me and solving the problem. So they can too solve their own problems and learn solving techniques. So that's how I would do it, Linnell.
I love that you said that, Janet, because you said that they would learn to solve their own problems. And I think sometimes with children, we automatically assume that our children need to be rescued from everything, right? And then we get into this overprotective zone where we're trying to shelter them so much that we forget that in order for them to learn, they have to experience, right? And so that was one of the things that my children taught me. I think my children have always been my greatest mentors, or my greatest teachers, I should say. I was the mentor, they were the teachers. And the reason I say this is because I had never been a mother until I had a child. I was always a single person. I was in relationship with a grown person, but it wasn't until I had children that I became a mother. And so the kids did not come with an instruction manual, Janet. They didn't come with the instruction manual for feeding, for diaper changes, for the middle of the night, tantrums. They didn't come with that. And then they go into toddlerdom, and no one tells you that there's going to be 1,001 questions of why every time you say something.
Love
And
it.
then they become teenagers and the why just continues, right? So it was one of those things where, as I had each of my children, I learned they had different personality types, and one size did not fit all for my children.
Of course.
Because one of the things I did instill in them, and one of the things that they saw me do on a regular basis, was I made decisions that were sound decisions. They were very sound decisions. I'm not saying all the time I made a sound decision, but I'd say a majority of the time they had a good example of what it is a sound decision look like. And so they solved their own problems a lot of times because, as a single mom, and I hate to say it, but they had to be latchkey kids as they got older because I had to work, right? I would love to say I was an entrepreneur since I came out of the womb, and I had, this fabulous life, and my parents were the best of the best. And, we didn't have to work for a living. We just learned the principles of business ownership, but that wasn't my life. My life was that I was a single mother. I needed to feed my kids, and so I needed to work. And because of the fact that I needed to work, we had to work as a unit in order to make things happen. So I'll go ahead and mute out. What are your thoughts on that, Janet? And then also, what are some of the things that you learned during parenthood as well?
Linnell, that was so great. And you work as a unit. I love that. A family should be a unit, a team to strive and to accomplish things together and to win this game of life. That is amazing. I love that. Working as a unit. That's I'm going to say it to everyone. Let's work as a unit. Let's work as a team. Let's accomplish our goals. Make things happen for our lives. Fulfill our dreams, right? So you also mentioned something about the why. Why? When kids ask, why is this? Why is that? I remember one time, why is the sky blue? I was like, I don't know. Why don't we look it up together and find out? There's things I don't know. And when the kids ask that, you kind of, go back and want to know yourself. So you start researching together, and togetherness, bringing togetherness and doing it together, it forms a bond. And I love that because never lose that with your family, especially your children. You created them. Be proud of what you've accomplished. And you created these children. And what do you want for your children? Do you want happiness? Do you want health? Do you want wealth for your children? Why wouldn't you want that for yourself? Want that for yourself. And that, when someone told me that, it just made me open up my eyes, really. Pretty much woke up and realized, yeah, I'm not going to continue the cycle of how I grew up. And don't get me wrong, my mom, phenomenal as she is, she struggled with 2 children, coming to a country, not speaking the language, going to school, learning the language, getting her citizenship, working, and raising 2 children. And her 2 children grew up, pretty good kids. We went through our struggles. Don't get me wrong. I think everybody goes through some sort of struggle in their lives because they're discovering who they are. And it's okay if you struggle, but don't stay in that struggle for so long.
You muted, Janet.
So now I just got. Did that answer your question, by the way?
It absolutely did. And I think that's one of the great things about what. Can you hear me?
It's okay. Now will join me pretty soon.
Well, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes. Are you speaking and are they listening? There you are, Linnell.
Yeah, I was here. I was like, why can't she see
You're
me?
on
What
mute.
happened?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I
Are
love
you
the
on
fact
mute?
that. Oh, can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
Girl, what is going on here? Can you hear me
Technical
now?
difficulties. Don't you just love those?
Yes, it says my mic is. It
Nope,
doesn't
can't
show.
hear you still. Oh,
What in the world? Hold
what
on.
happened? Okay, can you say something? There
Something.
you are.
Hello. All right. So here's the thing, Janet.
Oh, lost you again, Linnell. Oh no,
What is going on?
I lost you again. Okay, if anyone have a question, post
Mm-hmm.
your questions.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure what's going on either, but I can hear you, see you, and everything. Linnell, you said something that made me think of something as an African American mom. So I want to open that up. With all the different things that happen, let me read that. With all the different things that happen, concerning our culture, I heard you say that, we don't want to become overbearing or smother the children. I'm just paraphrasing right now. When we grew up, it was different. We could go down the street. We could, kick ball in the street. We could go down to our friend's house, or I don't know who has an open mic up. Mine is closed. But same era as it was before. So I believe that as parents, we do. Somebody's mic is open.
So, Sir, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. And so I love that question, Sir, and I hope that you guys can hear me on the clubhouse as well. So, one of the things that I learned, even with my children from their ages, so I have a 24-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 16, 17-year-old. And even in the times that they were born and the things that they experienced, it's much different from my little one. My two older children were born around the time when we were just getting connected to the internet. We were just learning about social media. We were just expanding our knowledge base outside of the classroom, outside of books and libraries, to now my 17-year-old has more access at his fingertips, as we all do, than the other two did in their time. And so, as far as our children go, and I understand what you're saying in regards to the way that our children have to be reminded on a daily basis. Um, I actually had this conversation in the car with my youngest son, not my son, my daughter the other day, because there was a child on a bike and we were riding through an affluent neighborhood. And I'm watching this little child, and she's just riding her bike, and she's in a safe neighborhood. And you go down the street, and it's just such a beautiful landscape. And, you know, they have these beautiful supermarkets that have all these things from around the world. And then I look at our neighborhoods where our people have been or coming out of, and they don't, the other side never has to train their child that because they walk out of the door and they have a different skin color, that they may or may not come back home. And I'm going to say it because that is the reality for the children in the Black and the brown communities. But then you have other communities where they teach their children, okay, you're going to go to school, you're going to develop in, you know, your mindset, you're going to be trained in a certain way, you're going to be able to go into any position, and they never have to train their children that when they go into that position, because of their skin color, they may not be welcomed. Because of their hair color, they may not be welcomed. Because of the way their locks are, they may not be welcome. And so, Seer, yes, this is a conversation that we need to have because it's different when you have children that are growing up, even if you raise them in a great environment. I pride myself that when I raised my children, I never went to, look for housing according to where I should be. I went for housing according to where I wanted to be, right? And that was a blessing. But at the same time, even if my children who are good kids, who speak well, who dress well, who have a great way about them and are very mannerable, at any time, they can be cut down short simply because of their skin color. So yes, it is a different conversation, and we did have to have those conversations, but I did not focus on those conversations simply because I don't want my children to feel as though because of their skin color, they don't have the same opportunities like everybody else. Does that answer your question, Seer?
Yes, and yes.
And I'm sorry if I'm a little passionate about this, but I feel in this day and age, this shouldn't even be a topic anymore, but it is. And okay, I'm sorry. I'll relax.
Linnell, you made a great point because times are changing, right? We are going into a new world. Things are changing around us. It's taking a long time, but we're getting there. And if we focus on just equality for everyone and come from the place of love when we are with people and get rid of the judgment and the criticism and that day old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Never judge the book by its contents and the wisdom that it brings. But Linnell, I know you got passionate about that topic, and I understand. But you know what? Look at what you've done. Look at what you've accomplished. You got your family out of that. You got your family out of that where we grew up, as in for us as children, we bettered our life. We didn't stay in the poverty, in the struggle that my mom and me and my brother went through. We didn't stay there. And I know you as a child went through struggles yourself, like a lot of us. We chose to get out of that. And you moved you and your children out of that. So be proud of what you've accomplished. And eventually we will have equality for everyone. And I so appreciate that conversation, Linnell.
Well, just to address that, Janeth, and just to give you guys a bit of my background. So I did not grow up in a poverty-stricken neighborhood. I grew up in New York, and my mother actually lived on 96th Street between First Avenue and Second Avenue. We lived in a high-rise. On the bottom of our high-rise was a supermarket called Gristedes. My mother had a very affluent position in our neighborhood. And so most of our neighborhood was mixed with Italians. I don't remember seeing other Black people, but I know that we had a whole bunch of Italians that were in our neighborhood. She had friends that owned pizza shops, bread bakeries, because if you grew up in New York in the 70s, damn, I just gave my age away. Sorry, guys. But if you grew up, if you grew up in New York in the 70s, it was very populated with the Italian culture. And most of the Italians baked the fresh bread from, and that's where you got your bread from. That's where you got the pizza from. That's where you got your cannolis and all of that other stuff. And so where I lived, that was what I was used to. My mom grew up having parties with people like Joe Namath. She knew the mayor of New York. Joe DiMaggio was one of the people that came to our parties. We have pictures with my mom, in furs and minks and things like that, along with my dad as well. And I had a nanny when I was growing up. So my trajectory of my life actually went this way because my mom was a diabetic who was a double leg amputee. I had a full ride to go to any school of my choice when I graduated school. And instead of taking my scholarship, I ended up deciding to take care of my mother. And so my trajectory went differently simply because I made the choice to take care of my mom. When I was in high school, I auditioned for Juilliard. When I was in high school, I had Christopher Reeve and Roz Abrams come and see me perform off Broadway because I had won a writing contest for a play that I did. I also traveled. Well, I also went to LIU. We had a 6-week program, which is Long Island University. We had a 6-week program where Mandy Patinkin, the actor, was my direct coach. So that story of coming from poverty is not mine. It's only mine when my children came into the world, and not even a story of poverty. It was a story of hard work. The greatest wealth that I experienced in my life is when I had my children. They were my greatest wealth because I was able to have these seeds that I was tilling the ground. And that's how I see my children. I see them as being fertile ground. And because of the things that I have put into them, no, it wasn't easy. But yet at the same time, we were not in such a circumstance at all times where my children were, quote unquote, always in poverty. It did happen once their father and I separated because he was the breadwinner of the family. I was a stay-at-home mom. When he left, he took the income. And so that's how I ended up in the state of rebuilding myself. So not all the time, we don't always have that story of coming from poverty as Black people. But at the same time, we have things that may happen in our lives that create a situation where we were unprepared. And so we have to rebuild. If I had to go back, Janet, and relive my life, I would have never made some of the decisions, but the decision to be with my mother until she passed away, that would have been a no-brainer for me. So I'll go ahead and mute myself out.
Linnell, you said rebuild. I love that. And what a life. You lived in New York. I love New York. I always kind of wanted to move there, but I don't regret anything because where I'm at today is where I belong, and we go through our stuff. And I love that you said rebuilt. Linnell, we go through stages in life. And you're so right. We go through these stages, and when you and your husband separated, that was your turn to rebuild. And look at what you rebuilt. So it's amazing. And for your story, and you're right, we don't have to come from struggle to fall and stumble. But, we all fall and stumble, and we can't stay down, and we got to rebuild. I love that, rebuild. So let's rebuild.
Absolutely. And, it's the rebuilding that actually makes you who you are. It's because there's a quote. I can't think about who it is right now, but there is a quote that says, the measure of a man is not in everything that he has, it's who he is when he loses everything. And so, I think to some people, my story may be too small to them to be a success story, but they didn't live my life. So they don't know what my successes were. I know what my successes were. Even the fact that I open my eyes on a daily basis in the right mind, to me, that is success because I've been through some things. But here's the thing, Janet. I know you've been through some things. I know Tanya's been through some things. Renee's been through some things. We've all been through some things, but yet here we are. And so I just love that you said that. It's not what happened to us. It's where we are right now. We're in the moment that we should be in. And I completely agree with that.
From today's conversation. Oh, did I have to start over? You didn't hear me. You heard me on Clubhouse, but
I heard you so.
Thank you so much, Linnell. That was amazing. I hope everybody got something from today's conversation. Family Talk Fridays. Join us on Fridays. Come and share your comments. Share your wisdom, because just like Linnell mentioned, we all go through our own stuff. We are warriors, right? We are warriors, and we will not stay down. We will keep getting back up. Thank you, Melissa Vargas, for your lovely comment. I love this family conversation. Janice, Linnell, you ladies rock. Hello, Tanya. Janice and Linnell, you're doing an amazing segment. Love the title. I wish you were in here, Perpetu. Thank you,
yes.
Perpetu.
Awesome. And guys, you know the deal. If you like what we're saying, go ahead and put some hearts in the chat, right? So yes. Put some hearts in the chat if you feel as though you could relate to this conversation today. And we really, really just thank you for being here. Definitely let us know in the Clubhouse what are some of your takeaways. And Janet, are we going over to the Clubhouse now?
We are going to the Clubhouse, but before we go over there, Linnell, just one last takeaway or one last message of inspiration for the families out there. If you like, I could go first.
That's all right. I'll go ahead. It's fine. What I'll say, Janet, is, I saw someone in the chat. I don't see it anymore, but I did see someone say poverty is a mindset. And that's absolutely true. You can, people that say, oh, I'm broke is a mindset as well. So we have to take the things that we have. We have to be focused on the things that we do have, the things that we have accomplished, because we have overcome every struggle that we've ever been through. We've overcome it. Regardless of what it is for your bank account right now, whatever it is for, whatever it is that you feel that you're lacking right now, you're only lacking it because that's your story, right? So if you change the story that you tell yourself, then everything else will change as well. And so that's what I have, Janet. I hope that answered your question.
That was beautiful. Change the story. It's like change the channel. You don't like it? Change it. Let's take strategies. Let's start taking steps, baby steps to change those. And for me, my little message for the families out there and everybody out there, really, I say, stay happy, stay healthy, stay wealthy, and stay strong. Have that mindset. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and strong. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Hope to see you next Friday. And now we're going to go into our Clubhouse. And if you don't know Clubhouse, gotta get DM us, send us a message. We will get you there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank
It's
you,
been a
Lynette.
pleasure, Janet. Once again, love you much. See you in the clubhouse, girl.
See you in the clubhouse.